Thank you for joining me. My name's Trish. So I just want to go through a couple more points on the NICOLA Bulley situation. There is definitely some discrepancies in that case. I did the previous reading and it was awful sound, and I do apologise. While I'm not new at the cards, I am new at videos and mics and all that kind of thing. And what I didn't know is that when my battery goes flat on the mic, it puts out an awful buzz. So that is what that is. So I'm keeping an eye on the battery life of the mic, just so it doesn't make that awful noise again. Now, I could have refilmed that and put it back up better quality. The problem is in the time between when I loaded that video and I actually got to listen to it and there was the buzz, the body had been discovered. So I wouldn't have been able to record or redo that reading in a authentic way, knowing that the body had been found. So at the time I had listened to a police report, and they were looking at the 3 hypotheses on what they thought could have happened to her, and that's what I was reading on those 3 situations to see which one was most likely. Now the cards kept bringing me back to the river. I kept seeing her underwater, I kept seeing a struggle, and it kept saying floating on the river. The river card kept coming up over and over again. The death card kept coming out as well. At the time I didn't know she was gone. By the end of the reading, I had a strong feeling that, yeah, definitely she had gone. And I feel like the cards were telling me how her state of mind before she went into the water. So she was walking the dogs. She had a lot on her mind. She was very deep focused. She was on some kind of work phone call, which seemed to be going fine because I had the joy card, the 3 of Cups. So that was just indicating her work crew around her, and she was quite fine with that situation. So then we went on to read, and I'm sorry if you couldn't make it right through the video from the sounds, but there was, I kept getting something about a discrepancy in the situation. So either something that somebody had said wasn't lining up with actual events, and now I'm wondering if it is how they search for the body, and then the body's turned up in a spot that they already looked. So there's a kind of discrepancy between where she was found and why she wasn't found there previously. So there is a definite discrepancy there, and I do want to have a look at that, why that's happened. Now, I'm definitely not looking into the searches and if they did their job, because I believe they did. I also, during the last reading, it came up with the card of reviewing. So every time I asked about the river situation, if the hypotheses of her being in the river or going into the river, it kept saying up with a review. Now, they are reviewing that situation. Now there's a review going on about the search for her, but I believed at the time that the review meant that they were reviewing that hypothesis being the strongest of all of them, which it turned out that it was. So she was found in the river and she had died. We all know that now. So the latest information that I have on the situation is that they've done the search, and they've said they've searched the area, but and then they found her a few days later. It was like, yeah, and they're wondering how she got to be where she was. So I want to have a little look into that as well. So we want to see what these discrepancies are. I've had somebody ask me, or a few people actually ask me, was she abducted? So I want to have a look at, was she abducted as well? So why was there a gap between when she was found, or them searching and her not being there, and then a few days later she was there? What's the deal with that? So I want to have a little look into that situation as well. So I'm not going to tap into her energy again as far as where she was prior to the event, because she seemed quite fine. Now, I don't know if something happened because the mood got very dark. So when I first tapped into her energy, she was it was like all about nature and just walking the dog, being deep in thought, lots going on, but being in the moment, being, in nature, and she seemed all quite fine. The energy seemed fine. Didn't seem to me like the kind of energy that you would walk in to a river and drown yourself. Now, the cards did come up when I asked that question. The death card came out, which made me query, was it self-harm? And I actually said that in the reading, was it self-harm? So I want to clarify that again and get a little bit more information on that in our spread today. So yeah, I feel like I just want to see where those couple of things go, and I'm keeping an eye on the battery just to make so we don't have that awful sound again. So I'm just going to, yeah, and like I said, I'm not going to tap into that energy of what she was doing prior to the event, because we already got that energy, and then the energy shifted to become very dark. So I was feeling a very dark energy. It was very heavy, very dark. Now the mood seemed to change. It got heavy. Now I don't know if something happened, either a phone call or something that made her mood change, or if it was the actual scenario taking place, and that's why it got dark, because it was the very scary event that was going on. Now I was also seeing a very dark situation, so it wasn't open parkland anymore. It was more like bushland, or like scrub. So what that could be is a part of the river that had lots of rubbish in it. It was a lot thicker and a lot more foresty, bushy shrub, and that's what I was getting in that reading. And I couldn't understand why she was there, so I was trying to work out, you know, how she got to the situation. She seemed to have lost something. There was a situation that came out where it looked like maybe somebody had closed her eyes. She couldn't see if there was anybody around her. There was also the card of the stabbing, which was a 3 of Swords in the tarot, and it can be about heartbreak, it can be heart pain, it can be threat with a knife. I took it, maybe it could have been a threat with a knife. I also got the tied down with the ropes card as well, came up as well. So that could be something why she was not found. Maybe she was tied down with reeds, or snagged in something. So that could have been a situation. So let's get into the reading. Towards the very end of the last reading, I was getting her mood being that she couldn't get back to where she was. So she was in a position where she kind of surrendered, and she kind of let go. She was thinking about the dogs and the family and the kids, but she could not, for the life of her, get back to where she was before. So she couldn't get back to the thought she had before, or the place she was before. So it was like the end of the struggle, because I kept getting struggle cards over and over again. So the main cards that were coming out in that last reading were the struggle cards, the fight cards, the death card, and the river card. And so it did turn out that yes, she died in the river, or she was found dead in the river. So, but it doesn't explain the struggle. What was the struggle? And I did ask if it was a current, and the card said no. So maybe she was caught in, and I didn't ask, maybe she was caught in some reeds, or she was snagged, or perhaps there was a battle with another person. So I just want to ask those couple of questions. So let me just tune in for a moment. See what card you're looking at. More information. You're looking at the card of more information. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking at diving in to get a little bit more information. So just let me tap in for a minute. So this energy, okay, so what we're doing is we're looking into Nicola Bulley, and we're looking into how she died, and just some questions surrounding that. Okay, so first of all, I just want to see if I have a connection. Whoops. Okay, and I have a connection. Yes, connected, we have a connection. Okay, I'll just check. I'm not sure what card that is on the floor, but I'll continue with the reading because I don't want the battery to go flat. Okay. Nicola Bulley. Okay. Was the discrepancy related, that I was picking up in the first reading, related to her time, around her time of death? So where they looked for her and then she wasn't there, but then they found her a few days later in that spot. Was that the discrepancy, or was there something else? Okay, please. Okay, so I'm feeling like there was something else here, because I've got the 2 cards, so there was something else. There's a discrepancies were related to timing. Yes, definitely. Okay, so we've got the timing card, so it is related to the timing card, why she was not found there when they first looked, as opposed to a few days later. But it is related to people. Discrepancy in like I said, things that were said. The other cards that have come up here is the control. Who's in control, maybe. And time to fly. Okay. Let's see, I mentioned these cards in case they come out again. and that means they're significant. So straight away you see the cards that are very much related, and very clearly you can see that they relate to the story. Okay, now, okay, so yes, we're looking into the situation. Yes, there is involved other people. We've got the two people here, the kindred spirit. It's called kindred spirit. It just means somebody else was related. So that's what we're looking into. So that's what the cards are wanting to talk about. They're wanting to answer the question, was somebody else involved in this? Because that's the cards that are coming out. So that's what they're asking me to ask next. Okay. Was somebody else involved in the death of Nicola Bulley? And now that we know that she's gone, we can actually ask it in that way. Please, we just would like to shine a light on this situation. Was somebody else involved in the death of Nicola Bulley, please? Okay. Was somebody else involved in... I've got the self-development card, which is a self card. So more information. Okay, this is no. This is my no card. What it's saying is no. Now, this is very interesting, and I'm not quite sure why this has come out. Okay, this is the self card. So when I ask the question, was somebody else involved, it says self. Self was involved. When they ask the question, this is my definite no. No. So no, it's saying somebody else wasn't involved. It was a self thing, and that was one of my questions that I wanted to ask. Did she self-harm herself? Now I know where the phone was found. The water was very shallow there. And maybe that's the reason the phone was left on the bench, because she went in there and she just walked along. Maybe. The cards are not saying that. I am going to have a look at that. But this card came out in the last reading, and this is a card of, I took it as she's not seeing the situation properly, or somebody is from behind and taken her. There's the knives or the swords in this card, and it's like she can't see them, not aware of the people behind her, so she can't see them. That's how I took it in the last reading. Now I'm kind of wondering now, because it's saying that no, it was self, and no, somebody wasn't involved. Now it's saying there's the card is actually called difficult choice, so maybe she was facing a difficult choice. Okay, and it's asking us to look into that a little bit further. So do more research on that situation is what it's asking. Okay, so it's asking us to ask, did she go into the water? Did she self-harm? I'm going to ask in that way. Did Nicola Bulley, because when I asked that question before, did she go into the river? It said it was a death card. So maybe, and then I was questioning whether... Okay, this is a death do us part card. Death do us part. Okay. What I'm wondering here is, like, her mental state. Did it go from being, you know, she was in that work situation, she was walking the dogs. What happened to make her mental state change? Because this is a change in her mental state, this one here. To do us part. And I think I asked on that one there, did she self-harm? Exactly what I was asking. Did Nicola Bulley self-harm? Okay, there's a hidden aspect to this situation on whether she self-harmed. There's a hit. Okay, so this can be read in a couple of ways. It's either two situations, up and down. So maybe she was going through up and downs. Maybe her mood was up and down, up and down. And this is the card, and I'm seeing this is her walking the dog. This is walking the dog. It's the Fool card in the tarot, which generally means new beginnings, but I'm feeling like it's just her walking along with the dogs. That's how I'm seeing the card. It's her walking along with the dog. Okay, I'm back. The camera battery died. I now have my lights on too. I didn't have my lights turned on before. Okay, let's get back into this energy again. Okay, again we're walking the dog. So we've got walking the dog and walking the dog. So what we're doing right now is just tapping back into that energy. So we're just getting back into the energy. Yes, we know she was walking the dog. the death card. We know she died. And this one here is new opportunities, but I'm not seeing that as new opportunities. Okay, so now we're following the dots. So we're lining up the dots is what we're doing. And I guess that's what the investigation is doing. It's lining up all the points and what she was doing. Okay. And we've got the death card again. So, okay, we're looking into her death now, which means the cards are definitely tapping into her energy. Okay, let's see. Cards, first of all, I'm going to ask, is there something that you can tell me on this situation, please, surrounding the death of Nicola Bulley? Please, is there anything that you can tell me or anything that you want to discuss? Okay, so I'm getting the hidden aspects again. So it's the moon. Moon, okay. Okay, so we've got the review happening. The time, there's something about the time. Are we running out of time, or is it the time? I think it's the time that's being reviewed. So what is under review right now and what the cards want to talk about is the time situation. See, sorry, it's getting me back to the questions that I had. The cards are want me to ask if the time. Why did they search an area? And that's what I'm going to ask. I'm going to shuffle as we talk about that. So what we're going to ask is why were they investigating? And I just want to say that I'm not in any way criticising the job they've done, because I feel like they did a good job. I also, in the cards in the last spread, it said that they were putting a lot of their efforts into that scenario. So they were reviewing that area of the river, and I feel like they were doing a good job. But what the cards are wanting to ask now is, why is there a discrepancy in the searching? Sorry, I'm just tapping in. Searching for her and she wasn't found, and then she was found a few days later. What's that all about? Okay, so this is... Okay, so this is the assistant card. Okay, we've got water, two water cards again, and it's saying something about the flow, so the flow of the water. The connection, so when I said I'm tapping in, it said we're connected. It's something about the flow of the water. The flow, let's go with the flow. So maybe, okay, maybe there was and it's a timing thing, definitely a timing thing. So could it be tidal, like tidal times, tides going in and out? They did mention that in certain areas, the tides, it is a tidal area in certain areas of that river. So maybe, and that's what I'm, with this card here, it's like the timing. So it's like tide in, tide out. So I feel like there's a tidal thing just there. So that's what I'm getting. It's like maybe that's why she wasn't found straight away, because it was a tidal thing. But we're definitely getting the two water cards, and the search for her while they were searching for her. And they're looking, over here they're looking, but this, and it's the suspect motives here. So they're looking into suspect motives is what they're looking into. Okay, was there suspect motives? Was there suspect motives as to why her body was not found straight away? Is there suspect motives to why her body was not found straight away? Is there suspect motives to why? Okay, they're receiving information and a letting go of some kind, and definitely letting go. These are my two letting go cards in different ways. Okay, so it is, and they're looking into this. They're very, very carefully looking into this. Now I've got to try and keep my that part of my brain working. So it can very easily, you forget that logical part, so whatever it was we're talking about. Okay, so what the cards are saying right now is that there is a letting go, or letting go of burden. So letting go, did she let go? And I think we were talking about the tidal parts of the river, but they're definitely looking into this situation. Oh, that's right, we're asking about suspect motives. Was there suspect motives around this? It's like a letting go. A letting go. And, okay, is that her letting go. So in the reading that I did the first time, there was like lots of turmoil and lots of struggle, and then there was a letting go. So maybe that's what it's bringing me back to. Okay, so that's what the other question that I wanted to ask. The letting go situation. Okay, and this is with my mind. I've got to keep my mind open to the questions that I laid out. That is what they're going to bring back into me. So I need to keep that open so they can keep this flowing, I guess. Now the question was, and see, it's closed again. Okay, card, you're going to have to tell me that again because I lost that one. Okay, so there's an awareness. We did have this card up before. That was one of the questions that came out in the last reading, was the awareness. Was she aware of anybody else around her? Was there an awareness? This is her under the water. Under the water, and that was a question that I wanted to ask. Getting back to that question, the turmoil and the struggle that kept coming up in the last reading. I was going to ask, is it something that's holding her down underwater? Because we did get the tied down card, which is the rope or the tied down card, and I thought maybe it was rope, but that it could have been maybe reeds or snags that were tied down and holding her down underwater. So that is what the cards are saying, but I just want to confirm that. So that's the question, and that's floating on the water, and that's a yes. Okay. Please don't let me lose this. Okay, when we said the struggle and the turmoil that was going on, was that her struggling, drowning? Was she drowning? Okay. More research into that. They're asking to look into that. Well, that's what they're looking into, and it's all about the timing is what they're saying. Here's the dog again. So it's all about the timing. It's the timing of the situation. So yes, we'll come back to that. That timing being that why wasn't she found the first time? So this is all relating back to the same question. Why was she not found when they searched for her the first time? Okay. So there seems to be lots of factors there. It was the environment that she was in was one reason, and a letting go. So she was letting go, heavy. That's my heavy burdens card. Heavy burdens. So maybe she was weighed down by something. And again, we're getting the weighed down because before we got the tied down. So she was weighed down, and I thought that might have been tied down by something. I actually asked that because we'll keep getting the card where she's under the water. And now we're saying heavy burdens. So she was heavy burdens. Now, were the heavy burdens, were they part of the river structure is the best way that I can put that. And I don't want this reading to go on too long. So the heavy burdens or the things that she was fighting with, was that part of the river structure? Was that part of the river structure, please? Okay, a couple of things here is... this is the nature of it, so the nature, so that, yeah, in a way, yes, but then we've got the attack card, and then that leads me back to the question of, was there somebody else involved? And the tied down again. Okay, so this card came out before, so it was to do with the nature. She was tied down, and that's why they didn't find her the first time when they went there. She was either heavy under the water or tied down by something, whether it could be rope or by another person, or that could actually just be reeds or part of the river structure that she was kind of trapped underneath, holding her down. So something was holding her down, and that's why that was the answer to the question. So that's why they didn't find her in the first place. So the other question I was going to ask was, is it because maybe somebody dumped her body later after that? So between them looking and then finding her, in that time had somebody just dumped her body there? So it feels like she was under the water. Okay, I don't know what the card is, sorry. Okay. But the question is, did somebody dump her body in the river? Did somebody dump Nicola Bulley's body in the water, please? Okay, here it is, under the water. Here we've got, that's the under the water card. So we had that in the first reading as well. So that's her under the river. Tied down. She was tied down under the river. I don't think anyone dumped her, because it keeps saying over and over again she was tied down under the water. So I think that's how, and it was quite chaotic, and so this is lots around her. So there's a lot around her, and I feel like by that time she was already gone. That's the struggle and the fight. This is the struggle and the fight card that we got in the first lot of readings. So it seems to be that is definitely what's going on. So she was fighting and struggling. Would you say I'm wondering, is this just self-harm? Because it did come up there when I asked that question in the first reading. It came up with death when I asked if she went in. Okay, so there was lots of turmoil going on around her. She was sitting by the water. So she was sitting by the water, like tumbling. She was tumbling. I think this is where her mood was going, maybe. And she was kind of retreating. She was retreating. Okay, so somebody wanted to know, was she abducted? Was Nicola Bulley abducted before her death? Okay, that's just a star card inspired. Okay. Okay, so I'm back. So I've picked up the cards off the ground. I will just cut that part where I had to bend down and pick them up. And the card that fell down was the card of being under the water. Under the water. And that's when I asked, was she abducted? It's saying no, she was under the water. And it's told us that in many different ways. So I feel like that's what the cards have got to say. This is the fighting card that fell out a bit earlier with one of the questions that we asked. And did Nicola Bulley self-harm? Please. Did Nicola Bulley self-harm? Okay, there's another way to ask that. We've got the death card here. Okay, no, death. No, death. Okay, this is her in the water. This is some kind of mental attack. Again, attack. Way out of the situation she's in. But it says, when I asked if she self-harmed, it says no, but death card, yes. So that's not a yes, it's the death card. So she died. I'm wondering if she didn't mean to. Maybe she's done it herself, because she kept saying self, but didn't mean to. Okay, did Nicola Bulley die because of the river? Did she die because of the river? Not herself. Did Nicola Bulley die because of the river? Okay, heavy. Heavy. And we keep getting that when we talk about she's weighed down. She's weighed down, heavy. So heavy. Maybe she was stuck. That's why she died. And here it's more, look into it, more information. There's more around that area. So I think that's, and it comes back to when we talk about the river and the heavy burdens, like this is the water again. The water and the heavy burdens. So I'm just going to ask, is there anything else the cards have to say about this, please? Is there anything else that you want to tell me about the Nicola Bulley situation, please, for the final question? I'm back. So I've got 6 cards here. These are the ones that fell out, that jumped out. Okay. Okay, so what we have is under the water. We've got self-development twice, and this is bizarre. I didn't know I had 2 of these in the deck. Self, it says self. I don't feel like anybody else was involved. And here is be seen. So it's the be seen. Here is floating on the water. And this one's just grounding, connected. Okay, so just looking into this energy, just tapping in for the final one. This is the final thoughts from the cards on this, is that she went into the water herself, because both times next to each other it says in the water, self. Straight below that, in the water, self. So she went into the water herself. Okay.